The resurrection of Jesus Christ is an established historical fact, and there is an amazing amount of evidence to prove this. The next 7 minutes will show you why. Sure, there is a God, but it doesn't matter how you approach him. All religions are basically the same. At least, that's what many people believe. They will point out that every religion has its sacred texts and worship rituals, its forbidden sins and required good deeds, and its reassurances concerning the afterlife. Beyond that, any differences are really just minor quibbles. When it comes to Christianity, though, that is simply not true. There is one feature of the Christian faith which makes it radically different from every other religion. Which feature is that? The resurrection. Christianity isn't just another religion that promises life after death. Christianity promises that death itself will be defeated and that Jesus is the only way to God. And what proof does Christianity give for this claim? The resurrection of Jesus Christ. The Bible does not make some pie-in-the-sky claim that the resurrection can happen someday. It says that it already has happened, and that's how we can know it will happen again. Every aspect of Christianity relies on the truthfulness of the resurrection. The whole religion is built around the centerpiece of Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection. Even the Apostle Paul himself said that if Jesus was not raised, then every Christian's faith is futile. Additionally, Jesus' own credibility relies on the resurrection. Even those who reject his divinity will often acknowledge Jesus as a good moral teacher. But what kind of good? Moral teacher makes extravagant promises regarding his own resurrection, only to fail to follow through. Indeed, if Jesus is still in the grave, then he met his end as a liar and false prophet. On the other hand, if someone who walked this earth performing miracles and teaching about God claimed he was going to die and rise again, and then actually did it, well, that person would have instantly set himself above all other prophets and religious leaders. He would have a credibility and authority that no other could claim. So, that brings us to the central question upon which Christianity rises or falls. Did Jesus Christ really come back from the dead? Yes, he did. In fact, is the only logical conclusion to be drawn from the evidence. To begin with, it was heavily documented through eyewitness testimony. Not only do the four Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John record Jesus' interactions with numerous people following his resurrection, but later Paul adds that Jesus made an appearance to over 500 people at one time. In fact, Paul wrote to the Corinthians that most of those eyewitnesses were still alive at the time of his writing. The implication is clear. If you doubt the resurrection, there are a host of people you can go ask who saw him with their own two eyes. Secondly, the Jewish and Roman leaders failed to ever produce a body and debunk the resurrection claims. They were highly motivated to give definitive proof that Jesus was still dead. Yet, they never could. In fact, within 2 months of Jesus' crucifixion, Peter preached to thousands of Jews on Pentecost with the message that Jesus was the true Messiah because he had risen from the grave. If the audience knew Jesus was still in the tomb, or even if they were doubtful of his claim, they would have rejected his message entirely. Instead, 3,000 were converted and helped begin the rapid spread of Christianity. But the apostles just stole the body. Many claimed then, and still claim today. While it's possible, consider the logic of such a claim. Notably, it admits that the tomb was empty. When the Jewish leaders resorted to that defense to deny the resurrection, they showed us that they knew the body was no longer there. This claim does not explain how the disciples would have moved the stone or gotten past the guards. It is a half-baked claim with little reasoning behind it. But also, the logic of the stolen body claim can be reduced to this. For some unknown reason, after abandoning Jesus in his hour of need, the disciples suddenly developed the courage to raid the tomb, steal the body, and lie about Jesus' resurrection. What could have caused such a turnaround? Either it really happened, and they felt an inescapable duty to preach the resurrection because it was true, and because its message held such great implications. Or They saw an opportunity to benefit themselves by telling people Jesus was raised from the dead. But if it is the latter, why did they keep preaching it even when it began to lead to their imprisonment and eventually cost them their own lives? And how is it possible that not a single one of them recanted their message and admitted they had fabricated Jesus' resurrection? The fact that imprisonment, torture, and even death did not lead to admissions of fabrication strongly indicates that they truly believed what they were saying. Additionally, if they were crafting a narrative to prop themselves up and gain a following, they made two crucial mistakes. First, they extensively documented their own cowardice in running away from Jesus. We see Peter even denied knowing Jesus as Jesus was put on trial. Second, they documented the first testimony of the resurrection as being given by women. Women's testimony carried no weight in that society. Anyone who was trying to fabricate a narrative would not have relied on women to corroborate their story. If one was making up a story they wanted others to believe, their first instinct would be to make all the details as believable and credible as possible. The testimony of cowards and women in that society did not lend added credibility. There is only one reason someone would be motivated to record these details. That is, because they are true. In prophesying and claiming the resurrection of Jesus, Christianity makes a high-risk, high-reward claim that it certainly didn't have to make. If this one claim is false, then all of Christianity falls under suspicion. Why trust anything else about the religion of the Bible if its central event was made up? On the other hand, if the resurrection is true, then every human being must reckon with Christianity. It has a supernatural stamp of approval that no other can claim. And the evidence tells us the resurrection was a historical reality. If Jesus were still dead, then Christianity would be dead as well. Instead, he lives as the one who defeated death, and he reigns over all things. The fact that Jesus lives means the Bible is true, and what the God of the Bible says about reality is the worldview we must accept, whether we like it or not. To research further into the evidence for the resurrection of Jesus, look in the description below this video. If you want to learn more about the lines of evidence that prove the biblical worldview, please visit linesofevidence.com.